Hello viewers from wherever you're watching us from. You're watching QTV, the Gambia's first private TV station, and we are broadcasting from our studios here on Kairaba Avenue. My name is Aliou Cisse, and it's now time for your weekly State of Affairs program. Well, as part of efforts to bring back the rejected draft constitution, Gambia Participates, a civil society organization, is initiating discussions among stakeholders to reach a consensus to bring back this important constitution, which was dramatically rejected in Parliament in 2020. Well, joining me tonight to discuss this and other issues as far as the draft constitution is concerned, I have in the studio Mar Nyang, who is the Executive Director of Gambia Participates. Mar, good to have you in the program once again.
It's always a pleasure joining you, Aliou.
Yeah. And also joining me on the program is John Charles Njai, who is the chairman of YMCA Gambia, and of course one of the dialogists who was actually hired by the Gambia Participates to help engage with stakeholders. So, Mr. Njai, good to have you in the program.
Well, good evening, and thank you, Aliou, for having us.
Yes, Mar, let's give us, a better understanding why you think, you could bring back this whole process to bring back this constitution, which many believe is dead.
Well, it's not dead, as Khalifa said. It is a living document, and I believe the reason why we are also engaging in this process because, we have a revolution, I will call it, in 2016, and one of the missing puzzles in that revolution is to have a new legislative or legal framework, if I can put it that way, a new legal framework that will change, or shall I say, augment the governing process of the country. We had a ruler that was ruling without using the rules, if I can put it that way. A ruler ruling without a rule, basically using the constitution to further, entrench his grip to power, to further, have executive monopoly or individual presidential monopoly, if I can put it that way. And that has actually, abated him to stay as much as he can and then use the weak institutions to his advantage. And as a result, we've seen how that resulted to economic crimes and human rights violations. So we are moving towards another republic, right, which is still yet to be realized. And in doing so, I don't think it is going to be ideal to be using those clauses that have been amended in the Constitution and then be bringing them back or getting a new clause, because some of those clauses are actually entrenched and it would take a very long time before we could actually get them removed or passed. Now, if you look at countries that have gone through chaotic history, political history, like Sierra Leone, like the United States itself, and that of South Africa, all of those end up developing a new constitution to move towards a progressive society, a progressive country, repealing the previous laws that actually affected the unity of the country. And for us to be able to realize that goal, we needed to achieve this missing puzzle that have been really sidelined in our transitional justice process. So 2020, in fact, John would tell you, when we sat as civil society and we were discussing the Constitution and the contentious clauses, we all said it's a blessing in disguise that the Constitution was rejected, right?
Why?
It is a blessing in disguise because if the Constitution was to be passed, it might not even pass in the referendum stage, because there are faith groups that are already not in agreement with certain clauses in the Constitution. And then also there were certain provisions within the Constitution that were not even clear to the many Gambians. So now this gives us an opportunity for us to dialogue, right? And then discuss the Constitution that we want, right? The consultation, the CRC did the consultation, but to an extent that I believe it could have been improved. But this presented us an opportunity for us to, have a discussion, if I can put it that way, and then look at the clauses that some particular groups of the country are not okay with. It is not that a constitution is going to satisfy every single individual or every single group, but to have a national consensus before going to referendum. Both the Christian and the Muslim groups have a consensus, and then the political camps, the opposition parties and the ruling party also build a consensus, because we wanted to move towards having the third republic. And if you ask one, what is a republic? Republic, res publica, the Latin word, means the power resides with the people. So the people get to decide the constitution that they want, not the political parties, right? So this also gives us the opportunity and the citizens to make sure that we, take this up as an organic approach from within the country, and then start having the discussion, engaging the different stakeholders to ensure that we have this new legal framework.
And that's when you commission a group of interlocutors, of course, including John Charles Njai and Saliu Tal, who is also the vice chair of Gambia Participate. Mr. Njai, let me now bring you in here. I mean, at this event, I mean, you made a presentation of your position paper. Take us through the process of reaching that position paper.
All right. Before that, let me wish all Gambians, especially our Muslim brothers and sisters, on the eve. I'm just happy for the Fullers and the Jolas.
And I could see the delight on Mar's face.
Yes,
he looks very energized.
Tomorrow you will wake up to breakfast and everything. But it's a joy as a country to share these when we get to these times, and we continue to pray that the Almighty will keep us all in peace and harmony as a nation. To the question of this whole process, let me also be quick to say that there is an ongoing process by the Ministry of Justice. So what Gambia participates, especially with the Executive Director, his intervention is to complement the efforts that are ongoing, because there was a time there was some silence as per the Constitution, where were we and all that. So what Gambia participates has done, looking at Mr. Tal and myself and our role in civil society, and also how we've been able to work throughout this transitional justice with different political party leaders and political parties. They deemed it important that we try to find out what were the issues. To a very large extent, we know what the controversial issues were, but it was important to, after some time, to go back to the different stakeholders, political party leaders, civil society, the media, the religious leaders, just to find out what their thoughts were. Basically, how do we move from where the draft constitution is now and the process that was stalled because it was rejected at Parliament, and to find out what the views of the people were. And that was a very interesting exercise that we embarked upon. So we engaged all these different stakeholders just to find out, one, what their positions were now, after some thought, after some discussions, and secondly, what were their thoughts as to how this whole process can restart, can get back to Parliament. And it's been a very fruitful exercise, because I believe right now where we are, we have a clearer understanding of what the issues are, the contentious issues are, but also how can this process move to the next stage. Mr. Tal and myself had also visited with the Minister of Justice and AG to just also brief him about this exercise that we were in. And I think the Ministry of Justice has given a release recently also that there is a cabinet paper being prepared for the constitution, the draft constitution. So, and I know the president has made a commitment that by the end of this year, that the constitution should go to a referendum. So I think that's where we are. But it was a very noble exercise. We are humbled to be able to...
You talk about engaging stakeholders. Could you just tell us, who are these stakeholders you met?
We met with a number of political party leaders.
Okay.
We met with the inter-party committee. We met with executives of political parties. We met with religious leaders. We met with civil society. We had engagements with the media, just to find out what everybody was thinking. But the joy of it is that I believe every Gambian, in spite of your religious affiliations, political affiliations, or I think generally Gambians want a new constitution.
So you agree with Mar that the constitution is not dead?
No, it's not.
Okay.
I mean, I keep saying, I think what we have not realized as a nation is that the psychic of dictatorship still affects us. We want things to happen immediately. That's what dictatorship gives. Democracy engages in processes. And processes most times have to be negotiated, especially when people have differing opinions. And that is part of the challenge we have. And that's why people are saying it's dead, we have wasted money. The document is there. The document can come back and Parliament can discuss it again. You know, now I think the challenge would be how it will get back to Parliament. Is it the same one that will go, or would there be some amendments that will go to Parliament? So there are arguments on both sides.
And what were the thoughts of the stakeholders? I mean,
well, generally, as I said, stakeholders want a new constitution. Religious groups have some concerns. For the Christian community, I think because Jammeh declared an Islamic state, nobody wants a repetition of that. So there must be enough safeguards in the new constitution. I know there is a talk about secular, no secular. I mean, people think that secular means everybody can do their own thing. I mean, for me, it's not even the word, but it is the safeguards that are put to ensure that I, as a Christian, Mar as a Muslim, all of us are free to worship what we want to worship. I mean, even for the people that do not believe in God also.
Let me now bring in Mar here. I mean, you have heard from Mr. Njai. I mean, the issue of whether they should take back the same draft constitution to the Parliament or there should be amendments. What's your take?
I believe, there might be amendments that will come in the Constitution. The last Parliament, the 5th legislature, rejected the Constitution in its entirety, and then now conversations are ongoing, right? And in terms of looking at that rejected Constitution and looking at the contentious clauses between the different camps, the political parties, the citizens as well do have their concerns, right? And especially in terms of the clause regarding marriage, right? Citizens says that the Constitution should be explicit, meaning that the clause will have to state that marriage is between a man and a woman.
It's vague. It's very open.
So they
want
I think it states two consenting adults.
So the citizens are saying they want that clause to be clear, right? So that it will not be ambiguous. So that is one of the things that could be amended. And then the issue of dual citizenship as well is one of the things that was raised. And then
the two-term retroactive law.
The two-term.
The two-term. I don't think there is any controversy whether there is a two-term mandate.
And then both parties, even the opposition and that of the ruling party, all agreed that there should be a two-term clause in the Constitution. Now, whether retroactive or not, I don't even think that we should get to that discussion. Let it just be there as a two-term limit. The Constitution is not here to serve Barrow or Lawyer Dabo, right? Any president that comes in under that Constitution will have to serve that first term under that new Constitution, right? It is a Constitution that is supposed to be here for a very long time. So as a result, we should be really progressive in the way we look at the Constitution. And that is one of the things. And I believe also the issue of the independence of the Parliament, that is also guaranteed, but then most importantly as well the Inspector General of Police, right? Most are stated that the Inspector General of Police should be independent. That is also a bit controversial because the president becomes the head of the state and also the chief of the police, so they get to have a level of control to the police institution. So for that to be autonomous is also another thing that we could debate.
And the judiciary as well.
The judiciary, obviously, that's one of the biggest, so I say, achievement that we have achieved since the transition to a democratic state. But then, obviously, the concerns that many citizens have been raising in terms of the remuneration, we've seen Parliament, in fact, rejecting the bill, the judiciary remuneration bill.
I think it's been passed again, huh?
Before it was rejected.
It was rejected. I think it was taken back to Parliament.
But whether it was passed, I'm not sure. So in the Constitution, those were some of the things that parliamentarians were raising, and then others were really, really minor and isolated issues. But the top issues we all know, obviously, judiciary should be well remunerated, because if you wanted to have an impartial bench, right, they don't have to be a bench or judges or magistrates that are in the lower class of the working force. So at least to be well remunerated, and that will also guarantee their independence and then impartiality in adjudicating cases without fear or favor.
Sanjay, do you agree with Mar's views?
Yes, definitely. What we want in the Constitution, like Mar started by saying, the 1997 Constitution, we all agree, was butchered, whether over 50 times, I don't know how many times. And it is sad that how many years now, 7 or 8 years going into a new dispensation, we are still with that Constitution, with all the bad laws that are there. Good enough, the executive is not quite interested in pushing some of or implementing some of those laws, but there are laws that are there. So what we want is a constitution that there is a balance of power. The three arms of government must be able to act as proper checks and balances so that there is no abuse of power. Because that is why we suffered over 22 years. Because Jammeh was just now, I think I would differ from Mar. He said there were no laws. He made the laws, but he made the laws to favor him.
No, I said we have a ruler ruling
without rules.
Without the rules, without abiding by the rules.
No, but right? In some cases he made the rules so that, and he abide by the rules. For instance, there was a time that if you are convicted of a crime, you would have to wait for appeal and everything. But because he wanted to punish people that he would convict, you will go straight to the prisons. So there are things that he did because he wanted to. So the rules were there, but he made the rules in such a way that it favored him and not the greater good. So what we want is to have laws that are in the interest of the people, laws that look at the bigger picture and defend the people and not individuals, not the executive alone, but the people in general.
But we have some people who still disagree that the 1997 Constitution is not as bad as many are putting it. I remember at the discussion, one of the participants raised that issue, if you could remember.
Yes, the 1997...
That they believe, the amendment could have just been done and then,
Yes, up to today, there are people that have those positions.
I think it is that bad.
No.
It is that bad because it does not really promote the democracy that we actually, we're hungry for. Right now, right, even parliamentary democracy is actually limited with the 1997 Constitution, because in a progressive democratic state, right, the Speaker of the National Assembly should be appointed or should be elected from within the parties. Right? So that should be a representative, and that person will have to resign from his political party so that he will serve impartially by making sure that the business of the National Assembly is neutral. That is one thing. The same thing for the Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly. So I believe that does not promote parliamentary democracy in a sense that the Speaker, if the Speaker is actually really aligned to a particular political party, then there is going to be what we call conflict of interest. So I believe this is not something that you see in the draft constitution, right? The Speaker is not going to be nominated. In fact, the other 5 nominees that are nominated by the President is not in the draft constitution. So that the draft constitution has actually killed it. And I'm happy that the government of the Gambia realized it, and they introduced this clause to make sure that the parliament becomes more democratic, right? And then also the laws that Yahya Jammeh have changed, right? They're still, in fact, those laws that become so irrational, still in place, abated Yahya Jammeh to become what he was, right? They're still there. So like I said in the beginning, it is going to take us forever, right, to be going through every single amendments that have been done on the Constitution and have the Constitution that we wanted. It is going to take time. So we have this opportunity to also become the Gambia to a new republic, right, with a progressive law. And in fact, psychologically, it has an impact on the people, right? How does it sound like when someone else comes in and said, luabu es bimune, this, you cannot do this, right? There is an anti-corruption commission established by the new constitution. There is a new regulation regarding traffic and the way you behave. So what it does, it's actually transitioning people.
And the access to information law.
Yeah, it is transitioning the masses to get to understand that there is a new legal framework that is, you know, that is really which adjective should I use? That is actually regulating how we act, what to say, what not to say, and then most importantly, the consequence of our action. And in law, it is stated that if an individual knows the consequence of their action, they tend to behave legally, right? So I believe this is the opportunity that the Constitution is presenting us, so that we will actually be a more progressive nation, a law-abiding nation, and that is what is actually missing. It's not only the government, even the citizens are not that law-abiding, because maybe perhaps one, the law is not known. Number two, they do not feel that the law enforcing body are enforcing the rules, right? So now, if you have a public law authority or administrator that is supposed to exercise public funds or public law functions, and they are not exercising their public law functions, and there's consequence to their actions, then they will be able to make sure that the law is actually being exercised. So I believe this is the opportunity that this constitution actually presents us, right? Everyone get to be synced together to know that there is a new legal framework. These are the consequences. These are the do's and these are the don'ts. I'm not saying this is not in the 1997 constitution, but I'm saying psychologically the impact that it has.
But again, the draft constitution as it stands is far more progressive than the 1997 constitution. So if we are looking at what we want as a nation, then I think, and we want to strengthen our democracy, the draft constitution as it is, with amendments that can come, would definitely be a stronger document that we can all, that can govern us and strengthen our democracy.
So, I mean, what do we do now in terms of further convincing the people who are going to vote? It's one thing to have the bill passed the parliament, but here comes a referendum again. That's another stage.
Honestly,
it can pass the parliament, yet people might vote against it.
If our politicians embrace the new constitution, one, we have to get it across parliament. And what we would have to say on that is, the politicians should do us, the people, a favor and do themselves a favor and make sure that they negotiate and reach a conclusion in passing this constitution. Secondly, I mean, we spoke to the leader of the United Democratic Party, and what he said was that if the president, if they reach a conclusion and both him and the president engage and embark on a campaign for the constitution, there is no way we will not get the threshold that is their commitment. So if we, and that's why maybe what we the people can do is to continue to talk to our politicians that this country is high time we have a progressive constitution all around the world. In fact, Gambia is doing very well. It doesn't mean that we have to rest on our oars. We are doing very well when it comes to our democracy. It's, I think, one of the best in the sub-region because of all the, I mean, when we talk about the balance of power, when we talk about, the independence of the judiciary, freedom of the press, now you have anti-corruption law. I think hopefully very soon we'll have a commission on that. There is access to information. So all these changes are the things that will strengthen our democracy. But we cannot say we have arrived without having a new constitution. Or at least we have, the foundation is built. Because everything that we're doing now would find its footing and its strength in a very strong constitution. So the constitution is a foundation. And so everything that this government has done, if by December 2024 we can have a new constitution, then I believe that we are beginning to show ourselves as very serious nation when it comes to strengthening our democracy.
I'm talking about December. I mean, we're in April now, Mara. Time is running out.
Indeed.
Are you still hopeful?
Well, I'm not a pessimist, but also I'm not that of an optimist. We'll be in the middle because this is going to take a lot of time. at the parliament for them to go through the clauses at the committee stage, or let's say at the consideration stage.
Yeah.
So having it in December, having the referendum in December, I believe the process will have actually started now, because you also have to know that the constitution will affect the electoral process in 2026.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So waiting until the end of the year, I mean the signals are not promising that we will have a new constitution
this year.
This year.
This year.
Okay.
If it has started early on in this first quarter, because the first quarter of the legislative session is already ending, right? We're moving to the second quarter. So there are other bills, I mean, except if there are extraordinary sessions that Parliament
that's what I wanted to say. If the president has committed himself, I think then the whole government machinery, except there is a sabotage somewhere, but if the whole government machinery should be ready to support the word of the president. So if there is going to be there was a certificate of urgency and a special session was held to pass certain laws. Something as important as the constitution, I think the whole government machinery, finance should get its act together, make the necessary provisions, let them take all our National Assembly members to some place and camp them there until we have a new constitution. We can do it. And that's where we the people have to continue putting the pressure that, look, the number one citizen in the land has given his word. So let our politicians get to work.
But
and prioritize
it, right? Democracy is a process, and constitutional building is also complicated. It's also a process that is going to take a lot of time. We don't want our parliamentarians to rush it in just 2 or 3 weeks. No, just allow me. There's one thing, Parliament reviewing the bill. There's another thing, other groups having engagement that they want to do with Parliament regarding the constitution, right? So if Parliament just rush it and then it goes to referendum, the people will not be satisfied. And then there's also one thing that we also really need to work on, and I mean, should I say, review, right? We have the never again slogan. It shouldn't be ever again, right? Now, the citizen will have to build confidence and trust on the central government, and that is lacking, right? And if the citizens lack that confidence and trust, and I'm saying this based on the evidence and the precedents that have been set by the current government regarding what has happened from people that have been found guilty by the Jana Commission, the TRRC, and then also the merger in 2021. So all of these is reducing the confidence that citizens have on the government. So if it is rushed, the citizen, number one, they might not actually even go out and vote. They will just think this is just one of those public, administration or action to just tick the box. Number two, they will just say this has been influenced by someone else just to get a new constitution, right? So I believe, it has to be a holistic approach. Right?
But Mar, you see, the reason I'm saying this is because if we look at the constitution, like you said, the controversial bits are not many. Some is the language. Like you talked about the thing about marriage. What is it going to take them to just add male and female? You understand? The issue about secular, no secular, like I said, if there are strong guardrails to ensure and satisfy individuals that you are free to practice your faith, then that is progress. In fact, the issue of the term limit is there. Everybody agrees that there should be term limits. So for me, even, and then the assembly obviously should have the time to call the different stakeholders, hear from them, and if need be to change the language, we change the language in a way that everybody is, well, not everybody, but at least the majority would be satisfied. But like you said at the start, there is no constitution that will carry, that will please everybody. I mean, the issue of citizenship. There are people. There are people that are saying that there is a thing that if you are a dual citizen, you cannot serve in government. There are people who have issues with that. But there are people that, even though that affects them, they have said, look, for the greater good, let that go. So I think it's going to be the commitment of our politicians. And even if we cannot meet December, but if they start the process now, I see no reason. I see no reason why we cannot have this.
In your paper, you said on the way forward, you recommend that there should be a national constitutional consultative conference to be organized, you said, in the shortest possible time.
Yeah.
Mar,
Yeah.
how far have you gone?
We're actually working on that. In fact, we've already written to the Office of the President to confirm their availability for that particular conference. We're yet to get feedback on that, because what we are trying to do is to build political consensus before the Constitution goes to Parliament. And when I talk about political consensus, it's not only the politicians but also constitutional stakeholders, including the faith groups, the Muslims and the Christians. In fact, when we had that validation, you saw how cooperating the Muslim and the Christian faith groups were in this consultation, and then also the political parties. So we have to first build that consensus. Then when it goes to Parliament, it becomes easy. The voting line of the Constitution is going to be party line or party based. We've seen it in 2020. That's exactly what is going to happen in 2024, 2025, anytime the Constitution comes into place. So right now, to answer your question, we're already working on that. We're checking on the availability of the president, because we believe he is the father of the process, that if he's able to sit with these politicians or oppositions and agree on how we're going to move forward towards having a new constitution, then it becomes easier at the National Assembly level, because both camps, the opposition and then that of the ruling party, are in sync that we need a new constitution. Let's look at the contentious clauses and then work towards that into the betterment of the citizens. And then when we go to the referendum, it will be easier, because also the faith group, we will not have an imam that will go to that will stand on the minbar and they say vote against the constitution. We will not have a pastor or a bishop that will be in the church and they say we are not in support of this constitution, so don't vote in support of it. So we have to work on that first. Then the parliamentarians can now start doing their due diligence.
I quite agree. It's important that we have this constitution, because I remember even earlier this year during the ECOWAS summit in Abuja, it was one of the key outcomes of their communique that the Gambia needs to have a new constitution as well. But in terms of the IEC, I mean, they are the one who will conduct the referendum for sure. What do you think they should they be alerted at this point?
Well, I believe the IEC. I believe the IEC should have everything that they need in place, because if there is a plan to have a referendum in December, they should not wait until December before they start telling us. In fact, I think sometimes the criticism of the IEC is that after elections they go silent. Possibly they are doing work, but I think one of the things that a problem we have in this country is communication. So if there is work that is going on the ground, then it's good to tell the public, because there was one time we were talking about paper ballot and all that. Has that been ditched? Nobody has had anything. Are we waiting until 2026 to start talking about the paper ballot debate? Maybe the IEC should start engaging stakeholders and seeing whether the viability of having the paper ballot, so that we don't get to a point, and I don't know what they are doing and how prepared they are, but maybe the journalists should call them one of these days and ask them, are they ready to hold referendum in December? But I know, obviously, civil society will be engaging, with them also, just to see what challenges there are, capacity challenges, and to see how to support them in overcoming those challenges. And
for you, Mar, as a civil society, Gambia participant, what have been the key challenges you face in this whole process?
Well, we obviously have to first acknowledge the role we play in 2020. We could have done better as a civil society in the way we were advocating for this constitution to be passed. Now, we all learning from our mistakes, including the politicians and other political or constitutional stakeholders. So the role that we are playing as civil society is, engaging these constitutional stakeholders, and then bringing in the perspective, the inputs from the society that we also represent, and as well play more of a diplomatic role to make sure that we see eye to eye, right? Both civil society, the ruling party, and then the oppositions, and put the interest of the citizens beyond us. Work towards achieving that, and then once we achieve that, then in terms of the referendum, right, civil society are the ones that are actually deeply rooted in the grassroots, that will be going out and then informing the citizens about this constitution and the referendum, and the significance for the citizens to actually turn out and then vote in support of the constitution once we have the constitution that we want at the parliament. Now, that is another role that we are anticipating to play as civil society. Not only Gambia Participate, I know there are many other civil society organizations that are also working towards this end. So, and then, I mean, from our end also, initiating this, the reason why we started this conversation earlier, in fact, it started all the way in 2023, right? The conversation started earlier in 2023 and the actual work mid-2023, because we realized that if we are to wait until the 11th hour and start making noise, it's not going to pay dividend, right? Why not we bring in all the constitutional stakeholders, discuss these issues, come up with a position paper that is going to be the outcome of the engagement that we have with these constitutional stakeholders. Then we use that document as an advocacy document, engage the parliamentarians, engage the central government, all the constitutional stakeholders affected, and then make sure that we have a political consensus in this manner, right? Now, once we have that, it becomes way easier. So the lesson that we are learning is from 2020, right? We were not able to achieve that. For us, it was we need a constitution and there must be a new constitution, right? Parliament obviously did the unfortunate, and then we didn't have a constitution. So how do we learn from that lesson? So that is the reason why we actually adopted this approach. And then we've been enjoying cooperations, right? The Office of the President sent in their advisor. The UDP sent in
Alma Metal was there, say Humbalo. I think most of these political
it
was well represented.
And
Definitely.
what we really appreciate is the fact that they are not seeing us as just civil society doing this. They recognize the role that we play into this
as critical partners.
And then they have been answering our calls. In fact, before the consultation, before the validation, the consultation that our interlocutors had, John and Sal Tal, they were so much, responsive. The UDP party leader himself spoke to them, the Office of the President, the executive, and then the inter-party committee. So all of these stakeholders actually responded to our call. And that is also to say that these individuals appreciate the fact that there is an organic process from within the country.
And provided also you have credible people in the process.
Exactly.
That also matters.
Right? So
they definitely. And also because if people, if they don't have trust in you, they wouldn't even give you that time to talk to you.
And this is where the criteria
that of John and Saliu, definitely even the president will be willing to listen.
And this is where the criteria that we were looking for, because when we start at Gambia Participant and we say who are going to be the interlocutors, and then we started searching a list of people. So if each and every one we look at the compromise, right, and then the no-go area. So we had to end up having, Sarutal, who obviously not only a professional lawyer, but also an advocate, and then also a lobbyist, and Jonja as well, being the veteran civil society advocate, also as an advocate for them, and trusted by the government, because these are the two people that government will also when they have issues.
It really matters in this kind of process.
So, and we obviously, I think I wouldn't leave this so without appreciating all the constitutional stakeholders that answered the call. Really looking forward, they contributing towards it. And then now I think the most difficult job to do is to get the constitution now back to Parliament.
And in the event the constitution is not approved, Mr. Njai, what will you suggest? What do you think will be the option B here? Just to make sure we have a very progressive laws in place.
We have to keep hoping.
Okay.
As I said, what I would want to see is that the political parties, the politicians in Parliament, look at the interests of the nation.
Okay.
There is no way, if everybody looks at the interests of the nation, there is no way we will not have a constitution. And then everybody, we cannot also have people taking positions and dig in and say, I'm not moving from this. Every constitution building, there is a compromise. It's a give and take. So let everybody be willing to listen to each other. Let them have a very healthy debate. And at the end of the day, let us have a document that we are proud of. If you say you don't like this wording, suggest what wordings you would want to see. And it's very likely that the other side may even see sense in it. But don't just say, no, I'm not taking this. If it's that, we will leave it. Like the little kids that, what they call Ghana. No, we cannot do that. So it's nation building. But if in case it fails, we will have to go back to the drawing board and start the process again. But one of the things that could be done also, if that happens, is to get rid of all the amendments that were done, not the entrenched clauses, But any amendment that was done, in fact, most of the amendments were done in Parliament. So maybe if everything fails, and by December we cannot have a new constitution, all those amendments that were done to the 1997 constitution that are not proactive, they are not helping, they were there to entrench dictatorship, should be removed.
Interesting. And Mar, I know you're implementing several projects. Under which project are you funding this?
It's actually funded by the National Endowment for Democracy,
Okay.
a 2 years project, very small amount, $110,000. But we have been recording significant progress. I mean, obviously with the outcome document and then also the responsiveness of the political stakeholders. But I just wanted to also answer the question that you just asked, John. Worst case scenario, we don't have a constitution.
But God is still hopeful. So
I'm also hopeful because the road that we are taking,
Yeah.
it is a political consensus building, right? To make sure that there is consensus so we can have a constitution. But if it fails, right, there is also another alternative because the constitution is a document that the citizens have the right to decide whether they want it or not, but not to be aborted by parliamentarians or politicians, right? So if the citizens really are still adamant that they want a new constitution, so they still want a constitution, then there could be another possibility. We can actually approach or employ the systems or approaches that other countries have actually employed, like that of Chile, right? They had to elect people that will sit in the Constitutional Council, right? And those elected officials are going to work together, develop a constitution. Now, this constitution is not going to be subject to parliamentary approval. It will be drafted. Now, the draft will be given to the citizens. The citizens will come with position papers, and they give it to the Constitutional Council. Now, the Constitutional Council will review and then incorporate some of these feedbacks. Now, at the end of the day, what's going to happen is that constitution will go to referendum. So it does not mean that a politician or parliamentarian will say we don't need a constitution, but the people deciding whether they need a constitution or not. Maybe we are not there yet, but worst case scenario, that could be the alternative.
Let me give another worst case scenario. Other worst case scenario is for us to see which parliamentarians reject this and do an active campaign not for them not to be re-elected. Because until, sometimes, because even this Constitutional Council that you are talking about, it has to go one way or the other for Parliament to give legality to that. And so sometimes, people, like he said, people have to feel the consequence of their decisions. They have to be penalized if they don't. What Senegal did to Macky, it was just clear. It was just classic. That we are tired of you, your term is up, go. So until we the citizens begin to punish our politicians, that if you don't do as according to our biddings, we will vote you out, and put all sentiments aside and just focus on doing that.
And how do you react to those who question the process of how the bill was rejected? Do you think there was a due process?
No, there was a process.
Okay.
Look, I know what people have said is that on the second reading, Parliament should have allowed it to go to committee stage where they could consult. That is part of the process. But what they did also was not illegal. Okay. Yes, there were personal, sentimental, political calculations and everything, but it was not illegal. But what we want is just politicians, leaders that empathize with the people. If you feel that Jammeh has doctored 1997 Constitution over and over and over, it is sad that 8 years into a new administration, Jammeh is no longer here. What is Jammeh's constitution still doing in Gambia? So everybody should ask themselves that question. And now sit and now look at the bigger picture. We don't want Jammeh's constitution by end of 2024.
So should we continue to blame Jammeh now? We said it was Jammeh.
No, but this one cannot be Jammeh.
No, we cannot blame.
Yes, because Jammeh did all he can in the constitution to serve his interests, but here he is no more.
Yeah. I think
so. Is it about just Jammeh or it's just us?
It's us as people, and most importantly, our technocrats that are very also perhaps in the helm of public authorities. that are in support of this constitution, because there are certain powers that will be cut off if we have a new constitution that will neutralize the autonomy, or should I say the monopoly of powers that some of these officers are actually enjoying. Number two, you heard Barrow keep saying that I'm a big fan of two-term, and I wanted to make sure before I leave, there's a constitution promoting two-term limit. Now, there are certain individuals whose interest is not for Barrow to leave office, because if Barrow leaves office, their source of income will actually cut short. So those people have already started campaigning against the draft constitution. They are campaigning for us to maintain the 1997 constitution. We know them, right? And we know the motives behind it, because obviously their political career and source of income is attached to Barrow staying in office.
How is sweet.
The message to Barrow is let him not fall short into the trap of what I call the political prostitutes, right? They're going to be here. He leaves, another government comes, they will move to them, right? And he has seen that. So Barrow should not allow his legacy to be compromised because of the self-centered interest of this particular group of people. So I believe, Barrow got the message, and I think, he should not allow the process to be delayed. And
I think he also believes one day he will leave, because in most of his statements, he
No,
always
in fact,
say that one day I will leave and I would like to leave a
he's
legacy
always-
behind that.
that's why I said-
So I think for me, he's mentally prepared that one day
No, but that is why I
he will
said
leave. He will
that
leave.
maybe Gambians should begin to say, if this constitution is not passed by December, then it's a deliberate sabotage of the president, because he has given his word.
Yeah.
So all the people, all his party supporters that are there must ensure that the word of the leader stands. You know,
how about if it's not in their best interest?
well, then they are undermining the
But
party
that's
leader.
the thing. That is why I said Barrow will have to really, review what is happening, what actually happened to Jammeh, and what also happened to Macky Sall, right? There were people, especially those in parliament and those close to Macky Sall, that you can actually stay in power because their political, economic interest is attached to Macky being in office.
Yeah.
Now that also tarnishes Macky's legacy,
of
with
course.
all the success, all the good thing that he has done
Yeah.
for Senegal. Now we don't want Barrow to fall into that trap. We want the next president to shake hand with Barrow, because remember, since Gambia became an independent nation, we do not have any peaceful transfer of power.
Yeah.
In
It's a coup d'etat.
1994, Yajame did not shake hand with Jawara.
Jawara.
May he so rest in peace, right? It was not that friendly.
2017.
2017, this guy, Jammeh had to leave Barrow to stay in power. We want the next president to stay side by side with President Barrow, shake hand, and then tell him thank you for setting the foundation, and we are going to continue the work that you have started by making sure that we build democratic institutions. And then this is not in the interest of, like I said, many that really want Barrow to stay. So Barrow will have to really open up and just say no. Enough, it is enough. If I've done good, my family and I have already had a share of it. If I've not done well, then my success will actually continue from there.
And is it not also just sad that, look at Macky, you have served your country, God knows, is it 12 years?
12 years.
12 years, and then you are going to live in Morocco, or you are going, why do you have to leave your country? What is it that you've done to your country that you cannot stay? So I think there is that example. And I must commend the president, because he keeps talking about this, that he wants to leave a legacy, that he will leave one day.
Yeah.
Let him keep on that. Like Matt is saying, he cannot be derailed and distracted by the people that are there for their pockets. Yeah. And if he leaves, they jump to the next ship. Yeah. If you go to Senegal today, I'm sure there are people knocking on Sonko's door and Jumai and be telling them that Mannen Madeflo only. Yeah. Because that's...
And not only that, they will be the very one that will come join the subsequent government and criticize Barrow.
Yeah. Of course.
Right. Yeah, and I think it's important because the parliament is independent. I think they should be able to take their own decision as far as the draft constitution is concerned. Yes, the executive has a say, the judiciary there, but the parliamentarians they should really, take the lead, and so they're able to usher in a new constitution. Like you said, it's going to be a great legacy for President Barrow that under him that we have this constitution. At the end of the day, like he will always say, at some point he must leave. So that's life for you. Well, thank you very much, Mar Nyang, Executive Director of Gambia Participates. It was good to have you on the program, and I hope to have you again as we continue on this process. And John Charles Njai, thank you so much for coming on the program. It's always a pleasure to have you on the program.
Thank you.
Well, viewers, with that, we bring an end to this week's edition of the State of Affairs program. On behalf of everyone here at QTV, we wish you all Eid Mubarak, and thank you so much for watching. Do join us next week. Until then, bye-bye.